let me tell you a little bit about myself. I am married to my high school sweetheart. We have two beautiful children. We have a teenage daughter who's turning 16 on the 28th this year of this month. And then 10 years later, we had our other daughter, okay? And she's 6 years old, okay? I have been working with children and their parents for years. First as a mental health specialist, then as a special education teacher. And my experience comes from my professional and personal experience as a mom, okay? Now, I combine my experience as a mental health specialist and as a special education teacher and as a mom to improve children's behavior and learning right from home so that we can send the kids to school equipped for success. By the way, are you looking for a tutor this year? Do you want your child to improve their behavior, their focus, and their learning and grades and motivation all at the same time? Well, send a message or visit growthinstitute.mykajabi.com so you can book your free consultation today. Now let's talk about one of my favorite topics, which is homework time. So, do you have a trouble when it's time for homework? Like, it's like, oh my gosh, it's homework to do. Your child is like, oh my gosh, it's homework to do. Homework takes too long. It's very stressful. You feel like you got homework, you doing homework, you know what I mean? And it's very stressful for both of you, and your child does not feel equipped. Sometimes it may end up with periods of shutdown or tears or fussing, right? All of that stuff. Well, we're going to eliminate that today, all right? Now, number one, the importance of homework. And I have to say this, I just did a video on this recently. Our children, as tough as homework time may be, our children need to be doing homework every night. Every night they need to have homework. Whether your school assigns, your child's teacher assigns homework or not, they need to be sitting down and having what I call independent study time, okay? So that our children will get used to doing homework, doing classwork, doing tests, studying for tests. This is good for them developing their study skills. It's also good for them to develop their focus, okay? It's also good for them to review every night key skills that they're learning in school so that when they're in the classroom, it'll be easier. The test will be easier. But it also was a great time, especially if it's homework created by you, Mom, for your child to work on key skills that they are lacking, that they should have mastered by now, that may be holding them back in the classroom. So we customize homework time to include homework from school, but also what I need to work on or where I need to grow time, if you get my drift. So this is important. Would you rather homework time be a time where it's stressful, you have to be there, you feel like you are teaching throughout the entire time, you're working very hard trying to get this stuff in your child's head, trying to get your child to focus, trying to get your child to do the work, hoping and wishing that they actually wanted to do the work instead of fighting all the time, you know what I mean? Or becoming distracted all the time, right? Would you rather that, or would you rather the experience that I just had with my daughter and what I've taught other kids to do? It's time for them to do their homework, and then they just do it. And then they come to you and they show you after. What would you rather have? All right, well, if you said the latter, let's rock and roll. Number one tip, okay? Let me see my tips here. Number one tip. This is very important. Set up a homework time schedule. From this time to this time, it's homework, nothing else. No snack, no watching TV, no playing on your phone, no, none of that. Okay? No talking to anybody else. This is homework time. Set up the structure. Set up the place. Okay? set up the materials for homework. Have your child participate. If there's a homework spot, and here are your pencils. Set your pencils up. Maybe if you have a pencil hold cup for your child, and then you have the pencils and erasers and everything they need, give the stuff to them and have them put it on the table, and then put the pencils and everything in it. Y'all, I just realized I'm babysitting. My daughter's doll. She said this is her baby. Don't call it a doll. She gave me the baby before she went upstairs. So I'm babysitting when I'm ready to do my live. And the doll's name, she named her Blue Ivy, honey. Okay? So I'm over here holding Blue Ivy, talking to you. All right, Blue Ivy, you gotta sit down right here. Okay? I love being a mom. So that's the first thing, is set up the homework schedule, and then set up a structure in the middle of it, okay? So that every time, at this time, is when your child sits down and they start to do their homework. Listen, be very specific about this, because you want to create a classroom environment in your home. In school, there's a certain time for everything. Our children need to be used to that, okay? So the more structure we put in at home, the better it will be for them when they are in school. So that's number one. Homework time for us is from 5 to 6, okay? From 5 to 6, that's homework time. My baby didn't have homework yesterday, so I had her write down what she was going to be doing during that time, and she did it independently. I was teaching a student upstairs on Google Meets, and then in the other room in Google Meets, I was watching her, but I wasn't in the room. I was watching her. I would click back and look at her every now and again, and she was just doing her work, okay? So independent study time, homework time, a schedule for them to be working, no matter what it is. Homework from school or homework from you. Number two, have your child gather their own materials and keep them organized. All my students, they better not they better not be sitting there having their mom come in and hand them their pencils and their notebooks. If I see that, they know I get on them. It is your responsibility to grab your own materials. And then when you're finished with class, where are you going to put your notebook? Where are you going to put your pencil? It's your responsibility, because when they come back to class and if they don't have their materials, they lose points. Because one of the ways to earn points in my class is to be prepared for success, honey. All right? So, moms, do this. Don't grab their book bags. Don't grab their pencils. Don't open up their folders. You know what I mean? Well, you can when they hand you the folder. But don't get the stuff out. Have them be 100% responsible for it. So teach your child to grab their materials themselves. When it's time for homework, set it up, sit down, and get ready to work. Okay? And make sure that you give them a time to be ready. So 5 o'clock is homework time. Within 2 minutes, you need to have all your materials in front of you and ready to work. Okay? All right? So have them do it themselves. When they do that, they take ownership of the learning process. The less you are hands-on, the more independent they will learn how to be. And that's what we teach our children to do here, to function independently. Okay? Number 3, teach your child how to read the directions themselves. This is a game changer for 2 reasons. Number 1, when kids be sitting down, it's time for them to work, and you say, I don't know what to do. What do I do? Right? They're not even looking at the work because they're waiting for an adult to tell them what they need to do. Number 2, your children will be much better at when they have questions, maybe reading comprehension questions or math problems to do. They'll be much better off if they learn how to read the directions, read the problem, read the question themselves before they start doing anything. So here in this program, we read everything on the page. We even read the word name at the top before we go on to read everything on the page so that everybody understands what they need to do. And I don't tell them what they need to do. They tell me. I don't read it for them. They read it to me. So if your child has trouble reading, okay, then at home, coach them so that they can learn how to read, right? But coach them through the instructions. Coach them so that they read the instructions on their own, and then have them read it again twice to you. Practice, okay? The more you do this, the more your children will learn how to do it themselves. And then one day, they will read the instructions, they will read the questions, they will read everything on their own, and they will answer the questions, and they'll come to you with it done. That's what we want, right? Well, we have to stop. If you said yes, then we're on the same page here. We have to stop reading it for them, reading the directions, explaining to them what to do. I know it's natural. My oldest daughter was working with my youngest daughter after she had done her homework already, and she was looking at the paper. She was reading it out loud, and then she said, "Oh, okay, so I see. So what you were supposed to do was," and I was like, let her tell you, okay? All right? So it's natural. It's natural to do that. But stop yourself and let your child tell you what they need to do. Because then you can see, does my child understand this? Does my child know what to do? You know what I mean? Based off of when they explain it to you. So make sure they read the directions themselves. Number 3, have your child complete the work on their own first. Now, I know this is tough. I know because I'm a mom and I used to do this with my oldest daughter. I know how tough it is to walk away and just go in the kitchen, you know, cook dinner, or go in the living room and fold some clothes, you know what I mean? Or just sit and put your feet up for a little bit while your child is doing homework. You feel like you need to be right there. But ask yourself this question. Do you want them to need an adult to be right next to them when they're in the classroom? Or do you want them to function independently? So we have to train them to do it themselves first. It's not about it being perfect the first time. Yes, they will make mistakes. Yeah, they might even play around, and when you see it afterwards, you might have to tell them to get themselves together. You understand what I'm saying? But the biggest thing is the structure. It's time for me to sit down and do my work. I need to focus on this. I need to get it done. I have this amount of time to get it done. This is what mom's expectations are. She expects my name to be on the paper. She expects me to write the date. She expects me to have a period at the end of each sentence, a capital letter in the beginning of each sentence. She expects me to write my answers in a complete sentence. I'm talking about stuff that I expect from my students and my children, right? This is what she expects. I'm going to make sure, because we want them thinking. We want them thinking, these are the standards. I need to make sure I do this, because when mom comes back to check, I need to make sure I've done this. We want them to do, they will never be thinking and focusing on any kind of expectation or standard if we are right there next to them. What they're going to do instead is, what does this say? How do you spell this word? How do you do this? I don't know. It's hard. I don't know how to do it. That's what they will do. We are raising champions. So we want our children to be thinking, we want our children to be focusing, and we want our children to be doing their absolute best so that when we check their work, and I'll tell you more about that in a second, because I don't mean it in a traditional sense. When we check their work, we know that they've given their best effort, and now we know how to coach them. You did good in this one, this one, this one. Okay, so let's look at this one, right? Or you got 4 correct, one of them is incorrect. Which one do you think it is, right? So that's how we coach. That's how we coach. We don't give answers. We don't tell them what to fix. We get them to look at their paper again, okay? All right, here's the next one. Have your child present their homework to you. So after they've done their homework, they're going to come to you to present and have them stand up in front of you, okay? They stand up, they hold their paper, and they read the directions again. They read they say what the first math problem is. They tell you what their answer was and how they got it. Have them present, have them explain. This is how we understand, grow to learn what our children are thinking. When it comes to math, this is how my child thinks when they're solving a math problem. When it comes to answering this question, my child did not really respond to the question because they are just writing down facts they remember from the story. This is how we know, because they are going to tell us what the answer, and they're going to tell us how they got their answer or why they wrote that answer down, right? Or what made them think. Well, I chose C because I remember in the story when they said such and such and such, right? So have them present to you, have them explain. There's so much growth that's happening. I'm not even finished. There's so much growth that's happening so far. And us talking right now, when you do this with your child, there's so many areas your child is going to grow. So much growth is going to happen when you have this homework schedule set up and a structure. When you have them gather their own materials, that's growth, honey. And function independently, being responsible for their own belongings, taking responsibility for their education, right? Focus, following directions, being ready on time, being accountable, so many things, you know what I mean? Number 3, when they read the directions themselves, they're growing in their responsibility, taking responsibility for their own work, paying attention to detail, growing in their reading, growing in their comprehension, okay? All right, I'm getting excited here, all right? Next, completing their homework on their own. They may have never really completed their homework on their own. They have an adult always there. They're always looking for help. They're going to mature. They're going to function independently. They're going to be able to see their work for the first time, okay? And more. I'm going to wait because I have another big one, okay? So many things that happen, and then they're going to develop, they're going to grow in their focus, especially if they can't get up and use the bathroom, get a snack, ask a question. Now they're growing in their ability to, their focus stamina. They're growing their focus stamina. What's that? That's how long a child can sit and focus on a particular task without becoming distracted by or inviting distractions in from their environment, because they have to sit there and do their work on their own. Think, it's between them and that paper. Them and that paper. Do you understand? This is big. This is a big deal. Every last one of these tips is going to help your child grow behaviorally and academically at the same time, which is what we do here. All right. And then having them present to you when they're explaining they're growing, because they are thinking and drawing connections, and they will be figuring things out that they didn't even think about before, because now they get to talk to you, okay? And then the last one, which I tried to hold off and not say anything about, this is a game changer right here, and I love it. This last one, teach your child to find and correct their own mistakes. Teach them to find and correct their own mistakes. I touched on that a little bit earlier when I was talking about the strategy of when they are explaining. But let me tell you how important this is. It's important because it helps your child build confidence, okay? A lot of kids have trouble when they get, answers wrong. They feel bad about themselves, and they withdraw. They withdraw to a point where now they don't want to participate. They don't want to answer because they're afraid of getting it wrong. And also, they may end up just writing anything down because I might get it wrong anyway. Getting it wrong for a child feels terrible, okay? But when you can teach them that they can find their own mistakes and edit it, and then when they figure it out, you're excited, and then that will help them be excited, then they won't worry so much about getting it wrong. They'll be more excited to get to the point where they figure it out. And we want that journey of them figuring it out, learning what their own mistakes is, because that's a win. If they can find, like when I teach my students to spell words, if there's a letter in there that does not belong, if they can find the letter that doesn't belong in a sentence, in a word, they get really excited because that's a win. Yes, you're correct. That's right. That's the word that doesn't belong. What do you think should go there instead? Now they think again, okay? So that's helping them edit and correct their own, find and correct their own mistakes. They have to think. They have to think. They have to think. They have to figure it out. And when kids get really good at thinking and figuring out, they feel excited, they feel good about themselves, and they feel capable. And that's what we want them to feel. So when they're doing their homework, We don't want them to worry so much about mistakes while they're doing their homework. We want effort. We want effort and we want focus, okay? After they've done all their work and they've gone back and checked to see if they could find any mistakes and correct them themselves before they bring the work to you, that's when we focus on how can we make this better? Or what do you think needs to be done to make this better? Especially if you're doing writing. What do you think? Is there anything? How do you feel? I ask my student. I'm working with my middle and high school students right now. They finish their writing and they read to me. The first thing I ask them is, so what do you think? How do you feel about it? How do you feel about your writing? Are you satisfied, or do you feel like there's anything you need to change? Have them take as much responsibility and ownership of their work as possible. So they're working, then they present to you. They're working during the time they're supposed to work. Afterwards, when they get to communicate with you about it, now that's growth time. Do you understand? So these are the tips that will help homework be easy this year. When I say easy, I don't mean when they sit down, everything is right and they get it right on the first try, okay? You will get there. Your child will get there, okay? What I really mean is the stress is gone. The confidence has increased. They now feel more confident in themselves. They now have a routine and a structure to do their homework. So they're not spinning around in circles. And you're not spinning around in circles trying to get them to sit down. You're not spinning around trying to find their pencil when they're rolled under the bed. You know what I'm saying? Right? You're not doing all of that stuff because the structure is there. The schedule is there. They're taking responsibility for it. They are growing every day. So homework every day gets easier and easier and easier. It's no longer this big, difficult thing to do. It's not taking a whole bunch of time out of your day, out of your child's day, and at the end, you're both exhausted. Your child doesn't feel like they've grown or learned, or they don't feel accomplished, and you're not sitting there worried about your baby because you feel like they should be doing better. Your child will continue to get better every single time. I'm going to tell you a story that I've told before. Maybe you've heard it. Of one of my students. This is when I used to travel to the home of one of my students. Now I teach virtually online, and I have students all over the country. But before, I would travel there, and I used to be working with one of my students, and his sister was my other student, but they had different days. So I'll be working with him, and then in the other room, mom would be working with my other student with her homework. So mom was trying to cook. She had the baby. You know what I mean? She was trying to cook dinner. She was going back and forth. The phone was ringing. She was answering the phone. She was trying to help her child with her homework. Her daughter, my student, she didn't want to do her homework, so she wasn't really doing anything. She was waiting for her mom to come back. Then she wasn't listening. She was crying. Mom was getting frustrated. So I gave mom some advice. I told her, set her up in a room where she's sitting down, because they were sitting down in the living room around a coffee table. Set her up in the room, and all these steps that I told you just now, I did the same thing with her. So one big thing I told her that I didn't tell you just now, this is going to be a bonus, is when she's doing the work, and when it's time, when you come back to check it, right? Because you can't be in the room. Go about your business and do what you want to do in the kitchen. You know what I mean? Take care of the baby, because she has to do this herself. She was 5 years old. So I know you're like 5, but hear me out. When you go back to check, because my student wasn't doing what her mom was asking her to do. She wasn't listening. She wasn't doing it, okay? And that's what kids do when they don't really want to do their homework. They don't really do it because they want you to end up coming. Next thing you know, you're in the room. Next thing you know, they're standing next to them. Next thing you know, you're sitting next to them. Next thing you know, you done grabbed the pencil, and you're erasing, and you're fixing, and you're trying to get them to do it. But what the kids do, after we got to the point where we done touched the pencil, that's why I never touch your child's pencil. You have your own pencil. If you want to teach them something, have them copy it. After we touch the pencil, they chill out. Because now it's easier for them. Now they're going to watch you fix it, okay? So I told her, I said, whatever you do, don't go in the room. just peek in there, okay? Pretend that the floor, now the kids be saying it's lava. Pretend that the floor is lava. You're in a hall, her desk is close enough to the door, so you walk past, you're walking, and you're gonna check. You're gonna peek in there to see if she did what you told her to do, what she was capable of. If she didn't do it, then you say, okay, you're not ready. I'll be back in a little bit. Make sure you're ready when I'm ready, and then leave. Okay? So at first she was upset, she was sitting there, she was angry, she just didn't want to do it. But then after a while, she was doing her work. She was doing her work. She was doing a good job. And then her mom told me, she was so excited. She said she did so good at her homework. She did everything by herself. She read the directions. She read the question. She was 5 years old. She read the directions. She read the questions. She did all her homework herself. She did so good. She was so proud of her. And so was I. I was so proud of both of them because, you know what? She was upset. She didn't like it at the time. But after she got to the point where she could read the directions on her own, she could read the questions on her own, she was doing the homework, her mom was happy, she was getting the answers right, she felt triumphant, she felt accomplished, she was proud of herself. It's worth it. So when you're going through this and your child is at first upset, complain, you might get angry, right? Try not to just go back to what you were doing before. Ask yourself, again, do you want your child to stay stuck in the same place, or do you want them to grow? Do you want them to be upset and stressed every day and run away from homework? And if they run away from homework, they're running away from classwork. And if they run away from classwork, they run away from tests. Or do you want them to feel like they can accomplish homework, classwork, tests? You know what I mean? Or do you want them to feel like that? If you do, the little tough bumps that happen along the way, don't worry about it. It's temporary. When you get through to the other side and your child is feeling excited and proud of themselves, and even if you try to read something on a paper, they're like, let me read it. I can do it, mommy. I can do it. Then it will all be worth it. Help your child function independently. Help your child get to the place where they feel like homework is something that they can do, a chance to grow themselves, a chance to prove themselves, okay? And a chance to just feel good about themselves, all right? So these are the tips to help make homework easy this year. But man, you're getting so much more. What a huge bonus, okay? Growth for our children. Whenever we might be like, okay, the homework, we got to get this homework together. But when we sit down and we start working on it, and then growth starts to happen, we have no idea all the wonderful things that's going to come from it, okay? And how much your child is going to grow. So let's get to work, okay? And you can do this. Your child is a champion. They can do it. No matter what it looks like right now, your child is a champion and they can do it. I've been doing this work for years. And for all my students, they come in and they're having the same problem maybe your child is having right now. Same problems when it comes to homework, independent work, problems in school, problems at home. But then after a couple of months, if I didn't see this happen over and over, I wouldn't be telling you. I'm not telling you theoretically. I'm telling you based off of experience and what I've seen. Your child, their problems and issues right now with homework are temporary. And they are going to do great, okay? So I'm wishing you and your champion a very beautiful homework and growth experience. Once again, if you're looking for a tutor, we're accepting new students. And I teach students from there. You have to be at least 4 years old. I don't teach under 3. Up until high school to improve their behavior, their focus, and their literacy in math, but their academics. I work with moms. I work with the schools, the teachers. All my students have behavior and academic growth plans, okay, and they do great. All right. And then some if your child is reading way below grade level, that is my specialty, to get your child reading. But also, moms come to me even if their child is doing good, or they're not struggling way below grade level, but their moms want them to perform at a higher level, be ahead of the game. I have students who are in kindergarten, first grade, who are functioning way above their grade level, okay, because their moms enrolled them into my program, including my own daughter, okay, all right. So wishing you and your child a great homework. Visit my website. You can look in the comment section for my website. It's growthinstitute.mykajabi.com for more information. Believe in yourself. Believe in your child, honey. And always remember that growth is unlimited. And I love you. Peace.